Hi, I'm Mike Lewin and I'm running for Borough President. In this video, I'd like to take on one of the more theoretical arguments for restrictive zoning, the idea that zoning in its current form is more democratic than free markets. So the basic concept is, well, if democracy means rule by the majority and the government that's closest to the people is the most democratic, therefore each neighborhood should decide for itself whether to allow new housing. But that leaves open the question, is the neighborhood really the appropriate level for this sort of decision? You might say the neighborhood is closer to the people than City Hall, but an individual household is even closer to the people because the individual household or the individual landowner is the people. All we are is really a collection of individuals. That's why the Constitution protects individual rights rather than, say, neighborhood rights. So to me, it follows that, in a way, free markets are actually more democratic than neighborhoods. Having said that, I don't think it's always the case that the lowest level of government is the best. For example, even if you say that the individual or the household is the lowest level of government, obviously we wouldn't want individuals to be able to harm other individuals with total impunity. That's why we have a government. So it seems to me if a government can prevent an individual from harming other individuals, it should certainly be able to prevent a neighborhood from harming other neighborhoods or a city from harming other cities. And zoning does exactly that. That is to say, when a neighborhood decides to freeze its housing supply, that actually harms other neighborhoods or other municipalities. How so? Because when you reduce the city's housing supply, that's going to affect rents everywhere, not just in one neighborhood. For example, the Village is notorious for using historic preservation laws to keep out new construction and to basically freeze the neighborhood in place. So what happens when people are priced out of that very expensive neighborhood? Well, they have to move to cheaper neighborhoods, which once meant Williamsburg, and now as Williamsburg has become more expensive, that means Bushwick. In other words, when zoning makes one neighborhood more expensive, that increases the demand for other neighborhoods, which in turn makes those neighborhoods more expensive. So in other words, zoning really harms not just the neighborhood that zones restrictively, but also the city as a whole. And so to me, it's perfectly democratic for the city to be able to prevent that, and for the city to be able essentially to protect the rest of the city from its most restrictive neighborhoods. And what does that mean as a practical matter? I would say it means loosening zoning quite a bit so that one neighborhood can't exclude new residents. See you on the campaign trail.